Are we rolling again? Were we always rolling? Hey, you know how sometimes you open a bar or launch a menu with the best ideas you've ever had, and you do what you think are 2 months worth of prep, and then something comes up? In the case of bars, it could be a burst pipe, or maybe an electrician doesn't show up when they say they're going to. Maybe 2 weeks after opening, you agree to do a magazine launch or a wedding or some special event that absolutely devours whatever prep you had. You know, everyone shows up and is like, oh, we want the drink with the doll garnish or whatever it is. My friends, I get it. I understand. I understand like I hope none of you ever has to understand. Around here is right where I would imagine the actual bar background noise comes in. Have you ever heard the phrase newlywed and nearly dead? It usually refers to a smaller city with very little nightlife, like a town that only offers extremely mellow daytime activities. The kind of town that's mostly retirees or new homeowners and nothing in between. You know, you're in great shape if you're into bird watching or walking tours of old mills, but finding a beer after 8 p.m., that's a mission. There are a lot of cities and towns across Canada that are described this way. A shocking number of them are provincial capitals or have populations of more than 100,000 people. A less than shocking amount of them, that description is accurate. At least if you're only there for 3 or 5 days and you don't have the time to really dig into the charms of a city. Sometimes the magic of a historically important port doesn't really show itself to everyone that's just passing through. Love at first sight isn't always a thing. Sometimes it takes a minute to fall in love. More than 20 years ago, when I lived in Vancouver for a year, when the provincial capital of British Columbia, Victoria, came up, the newlywed and nearly dead insult also came up. A lot. I'm just going to state right now that I love Victoria. I always have, so it isn't just that I'm 45 years old now. Victoria, British Columbia is pretty great. First of all, the weather is never that bad, no matter what your favorite season is. The downtown and harbor area feels like you're in some kind of Hallmark movie, and for the purposes of branching out, the cocktail bars, any bar in Victoria is always really fun. There's sci-fi themed whiskey bars and new takes on classic hotel lounges, and one specific red sauce Italian spot that turns into an industry hangout and maybe has Prosecco on tap. Mostly, though, there's a level of care in Victoria that you don't often get in big cities. There's something there for everyone, and everyone there is, nice. It feels important historically, but there are also locally forage-focused restaurants and vegan burger shops and fourth-wave coffee shops. Everything you need is available in Victoria. And the only time I've ever felt nearly dead in Victoria was because there was a night where I was given too many drink tickets at a venue called Sugar, I think. Welcome back to Branching Out. I'm Josh Lindley. On this podcast, I ask some of the best bartenders you know about their influences and their mentors, and then I ask those influences and mentors the same thing, and so on, and so on, and so on. On this episode of Branching Out, I'll be talking with Brant Porter of Humboldt in Victoria. Brant was named by Kate Chernoff on her episode from a few weeks ago, and while Brant has the chops to keep it up in any city I've ever gone drinking in, he's been in Victoria for most of his bar career. Through my conversation with him, you'll hear how the size or relative population of Victoria has nothing to do with the size of his heart when thinking about hospitality or running a bar or how he works with others. Brant is one of my favorite people in the industry to talk with, and after you hear this, I'm sure you'll feel the same. All right, we're back in.
All right.
Dear Brant Porter, I'm so happy to have you on Branching Out. Rather than reading a bio that I never asked you to write for me, tell me who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Brant Porter. I'm a bar manager and operator in Victoria, British Columbia, and I primarily run Humboldt Bar, which is a cocktail bar in Victoria.
When you explain your job to people, whether in or out of the industry, do you find that despite you explaining what you do, they don't fully understand and just function on presuppositions anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to, you want to be like, it's really hard. What I do is like kind of hard, but it's not hard at all, but it's really hard, but it's not hard. Yeah. And they're like, no, you explained it. It's not hard at all. And then you're like, but it kind of is. But usually it's like I manage generally is the thing I say to people.
Yeah.
And that usually gets it across.
Right. And you focus most of your time on Humboldt.
Yes.
Yeah. When did Humboldt open?
We opened June of 2023.
Right. So post lockdowns, post all of that.
Yeah, basically, we the whole thing is we're in the bottom of a hotel, and we operate a couple different food and beverage spaces within the hotel. And my boss Morgan brought me on to restart this historic pub that's in the building called Bartholomew's. So we were going to start there, and then we were going to renovate the space that would eventually become Humboldt. And we got that job after losing a previous job, Morgan and I, in September of 2020. And then during the time between 2020 and 2023, we were just slowly trying to find the capacity to make this room happen. So it was very much like a kind of hurry up and wait situation. It was always like a carrot dangling in front of us. And it took 3 years, but eventually we got there, which is, I'm glad it opened when it did.
You were working at Bartholomew's that whole time, though?
Yeah, I was managing that bar.
Did you find
I
that...
still kind of do.
Yeah. Did you find that having that space, because it is a hotel property, and having the venue that you were running anyway, did you feel like that ate into your time prepping for the new space? Or was it a nice kind of placeholder where you had some routine amongst the craziness of opening a new space?
It was hard because and I would never do it like this again, and it will never happen like this again. But we always thought that Humboldt was going to open 3 months from now, whenever now was. Right. So I spent those 3 years constantly feeling like I was behind and kind of never getting ahead. So it felt stressful to kind of do all of it, running the bar and kind of changing out how all that works. And especially during COVID, which was very, very tough. And then also kind of dreaming this up with the understanding that it was going to open really, really soon. Mm-hmm. Even though it sounds like it's a dream to be like, I'm just going to sit around for 3 years and figure out how this bar works. But it wasn't quite like that. But I was very, very happy to have a job. I was very happy to operate Bartholomew's. That's like the golden ticket, mm-hmm. as far as I'm concerned. It's such a lovely spot, and very much informs what we do here in the space across the hall in Humboldt. But yeah, it wasn't like it was eating into the time. It was just time.
Mm-hmm. I've described those two rooms, Humboldt and Bartholomew's, as sort of evil twins. Which one is the evil twin of the two of them? These two bars across the hallway in a hotel from each other, wildly different concepts, but both serving the same clientele? ?
Not definitely. Well, some of the same clientele. I mean, Humboldt is the character that seems like the good guy until at the end of the episode you realize they're a Romulan, not a Klingon, or not a Vulcan, right? And that's what I think of it. Bart's is like the every person spot. You can take your folks, you can take your kids. It's like, it's there for everyone. It's kind of got something for everyone, and it's homey and all that sort of stuff. Humboldt is like that too. It's also like very warm and inviting, but it has this air of, the cocktails are a little bit more intricate, and there's like stories behind it, and people like to go on occasions for it in some circumstances. Mm-hmm. And it's really funny to see, we'll have some people walk past Humboldt and be like, those guys are pretentious dicks. And then they walk right into Bart's and love it. And we're like, still gotcha. Yeah. Right. Or like, people will walk into Humboldt and be like, there's no way you'd ever catch me getting a beer over there. It's like, we still gotcha. Yeah. And my favorite though is, you'll have people have one or two cocktails, in Humboldt, and then they'll go over to the pub and have a few pints, which is like what I would do, like anywhere in the world. And that's what I love about those things.
Sometimes you can be a pretentious dick with the Oilers game on.
Totally.
Yeah.
I guess.
So Brant, when did you decide that being a bartender or working in bars was your thing? When did you realize this is what you're going to do?
I had been in restaurants since I was 11. I had started dishwashing at my cousin's Thai restaurant up in Sydney, which is about a 30-minute drive from Victoria. I was only a child, and I just kind of needed something to do. So I started working. It was around when I think I was like 15 or 16, maybe. I got into the front of house as a busser, and then eventually a server. And I saw my cousin A, who was a very gregarious person. He's outgoing and he's funny and handsome. He's everything I kind of wanted to be. And he was making cocktails for the staff. And it was like sourpuss, lychee lee, pineapple juice, like that sort of stuff.
Around what year was that?
Everyone loved it. It was This would have been, well, I graduated in 2011, so maybe 2007, I guess, 2000, or maybe 2008, 2009. I started bartending in 2012, would be, or 2013 or so. And I was like, I want to do that. And I noticed people kind of behaved differently to servers than they did bartenders. I loved the act of service, and my mom was a server, and I worked with her for a lot of this. And so I thought that was like a cool calling. But then the bar thing was even more interesting because people kind of treated you a bit better, and you're also being creative and working with your hands. And I've got a pretty creative mind, and that was the moment. And then, yeah, just slow kind of progression upwards.
So it sounds like you got into bars and restaurants pretty early on. Are there any other things you're into? Are you a musician? Are you a rugby player? Are you a wrestler? Are you into collecting bottle tops? What are you into?
Definitely have a wrestler's build. I'm glad you saw that. I'm a musician. I'm a guitarist. I'm not very good. Not very good anymore. That was the thing I was trying to do though. I was putting my head down. I wanted to go to Boston to train at Berkeley and and stuff like that. And yeah, it never really happened. And I don't think it would have either. I got some good advice like not to do it too. But you can't do music and bars at the same. They were happening at the same time. They're all happening on Friday and Saturday nights. And I was like, I'm better at this. I'm better at the bars than I am at the guitars. Yeah. So that was the thing. But with the intensity, it was always like, okay, like I can't have hobbies. I need like a career. I need to like, if I'm gonna play the guitar, I need to like play it. And if I'm gonna make drinks, I need to like make drinks.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I oftentimes use guitar as like an analogy when I'm training a bartender, where it doesn't take much to pick up a guitar and learn 6 or 8 chords. Or, you know, there's that fucking guy at every party who decides that everyone needs to hear him play the first, 6 chords of Wish You Were Here or whatever, like the first 6 bars of Wish You Were Here to stop the middle of a party. But that's all he ever learns to get to. And I feel the same way a lot of times about bartenders who are just like, I learned how to make an old fashioned. I learned how to make a Mai Tai. I'm great. But the truth is, to be very good at either, you really need to dedicate a lot of time to it.
Yeah. I mean, you can, by year 3 of guitar, you're good. You're probably like pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it's like everything that happens after. And just like with any craft or like mastering and stuff, you start to realize how little you know. And you're envious of the time where any like notch up in success was like easy and revolutionary. You're like, oh yeah, I'm so good now. And then you get to a point at, year 20 of guitar being like, I'm not even going to try that ever. And yeah, that realization in the craft is it works on both ends, bartending and musicianship for sure.
Yeah. Do you still play at all?
Yeah, a little bit for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of enjoy it. And I'm in a space now where I can play louder than I have been able to do in my 20s. So that's really nice. The next step will be like to get the band back together and do all that sort of stuff.
Classic.
But yeah. But right now, just for me, as far as other hobbies, like not a lot, man. I like eating and drinking in restaurants and enjoying my city. I'm big into the Premier League. Bartender got me into football, into soccer.
Sure.
That's taken up so much of my time. It's awesome. Crossword puzzles, I'm super interested.
So Brant, the reason that you got called to be a part of Branching Out is because a couple weeks ago, I talked to Kate Chernoff. And I said, hey, Kate, if you could name a handful of people or books or bloggers that had a severe impact on who you are as a bartender, who would it be? And she said, you got to talk to Brant Porter.
Oh,
and
nice.
Kate specifically, she's never asked you, or she hadn't at that point. She wants to know.
I would ask Brant because I actually really would like to know this. If Brant expands his bar empire and goes on to open another bar, what would it be and where would it be more specifically?
Where would I do it and what would it be if I was opening up another bar? It's like a very boring answer, but it all depends on where it is and what space it is and like what time it is too. I've always thought about this with businesses. I found that, you ask like a bartender or a chef, just like, what's your dream spot? It's like, oh, well, I want it to be, all, head cheese and, stuff with coals and stuff like that. And cause that appeals to me. But like your job isn't just to appeal to you and the sensibilities of you and the people who like look and dress and act like you. If you're opening up a food and beverage business, you have to cater yourself to the market and to, the brick and mortar and all this sort of stuff. So the real boring answer is just, if I have an opportunity to open up a space in, I don't know, let's say Toronto, mm-hmm. because I will not do that. I will not jump into that market without knowing it. But you'd be like, okay, what's the space? What can go in here? How big is it? How many people can be in here? Where is it? What things are happening around it? What's the market like? If I'm going to work within my professional expertise, like how much can I charge for a cocktail here? Like what are the margins? Mm-hmm. Is there money at the bottom of all this? So, and that's kind of it. When it comes to the more general stuff, Humboldt was a really, really cool concept that kind of fell into my lap, in the way that I wasn't really wanting to open up a small, intimate cocktail bar. That to me kind of had sailed. Mm-hmm. I thought that was starting to get a little bit played out. At that time, I was more interested in bars that behaved not quite like Bartholomew's does, which, for the people who don't know, is, a British Isles pub, but something where it's like a little livelier, a little more, not quite standing room, but like a little bit mm-hmm. more people and young and fun, and pushing the narrative of like, oh yeah, we can have like a high quality offering, particularly let's say cocktails, high offering cocktail offering in a space that is a little bit more casual and doesn't have like the not the nuance, but maybe the pomp and circumstance of like kind of these smaller intimate cocktail bars. Mm-hmm. The market very much went that way, I think. There's tons of great examples of bars that are very much like that. Like right off the top of my head, I think of Mount Pleasant, mm-hmm. Vintage and Provisions in Vancouver, where you saw me last, sweating over a chunk of ice. Yeah. They're a great example of a place where, you can pack a lot of people in, you can pack lots of different sorts of people in, and they feel comfortable. And what you're getting is like super quality, super good. So like that's a model that I would continue to pursue if a bigger space kind of pops up in front of me. But again, it's all about what you can offer to the market and what the market's giving you.
Right.
Does that make sense, Josh?
Yeah, of course. It's just shows that you're being very analytical about how you would go about anything, which is mostly, and you'll hear it eventually, but mostly what Kate said about you is that you're very much attuned to all the details going on and aware of all that. So similar to Kate mentioning you, now, Brant, I'm going to ask you, if you had to pick a person or 3 or 5 or books or bloggers or whatever, who would you say are like the pillars that built you into the bartender that you are?
That's a good one. There's like a million of them. Like, and mm-hmm. I'm sure Kate felt the same way, where it's like, there's a lot you can talk about. I'll rapid fire through a couple, especially since you asked me about how I kind of got here. Mm-hmm. When it comes to like someone I didn't know initially and like kind of like looked up to, especially in like call it like a book or an internet sort of thing. Jeffrey Morgenthaler comes up as kind of the first person, when I had that moment watching my cousin, make the drink, I was like, wow, that's really cool. And, I was bartending at this Thai restaurant, and then I saw Jeffrey Morgenthaler's video on YouTube about the daiquiri, and he's this, blunt dude, very much a dude, mm-hmm. Being like, drinks are cool, drinks are important, drinks have history, and like we should take this like seriously. And so that was like, yeah. I was like, oh, we can take this seriously. This is cool. This has intrigue. There's like history involved, which is something that I was really into. Like the fact that I could be bookish about it was like, oh, this is fucking sweet. And so right off the bat, it was like, that's cool. And then I found out that there was a cocktail festival here in Victoria called Art of the Cocktail. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to go to that. I'll be like the youngest person there. I'll be so fucking cool. It's going to be great. And Jeffrey was there, and I had met Jeffrey, and he was so patient with me because he was, I mean, probably 35 and I was 19, and I just like followed him around like a puppy. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I it seems effortless, but I don't think it is. But he's so generous with his time for so many people, and I really admire that. And has like a lot of time to be like, hey, yeah, I would do this. I wouldn't do that. Hope you're well, dude. Mm-hmm. And then I had all these preconceived notions of what bars or bartenders should and shouldn't be because I watched this guy's videos and I was just a jackass. And I met this guy named Brendan Brewster. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, we always say he looked like Boardwalk Empire. He always had like the hats and the big long thing.
It's great though, as a bartender, you come across those guys who have the arm garters and the vests and the pocket watches, and very rarely, and Brendo was one of these guys, he came across that honestly. That wasn't him dressing up like a bartender. That was just who he was. Yeah,
he was the last one, honestly. And I'm also thinking about the arm garters thing too. And Brendo was like, yeah, man, like all that sounds good. But you should be less of a dick. and I'm like floored at this guy telling me this. He's just like, you should go find the best bar in the city, beg them for a job, and just listen to them. And that's it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay. So immediately that was like, oh, that's Sean Sewell. That's Sean at Clyde's. It's got to be Sean. And then Sean was opening up a new place in town called Little Jumbo. And I begged Sean for a job. Him and his head bartender at the time, Nate, they had recognized me from just like coming in and ordering Sazerac and shit like that. And they gave me a job. And so Sean Sewell's the next one. Mm-hmm. You know, that guy very much gave me my start. And yeah, what's interesting about Sean is he was always looking so far outward into the bartending world from Victoria. He already had like so many connections of like, you know, when you hear about like, oh, who made this modern classic and who's doing this. These were people that Sean knew, was probably friends with or acquaintances with. And it made me have like a really global perspective for cocktails and bars where it could have been really easy to just be caught up in what's going on in the city. Mm-hmm. Which sounds novel now because like it's very easy to know like every bartender in the world. Thing called Bartender Atlas, and you can just everyone's there. Yeah. When did Bartender Atlas? When did you guys start that?
We're almost 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a hair before you guys.
Yeah.
But I think you're all thinking the same thing. But yeah, it can't be understated how crazy that was. And like Sean having like this spec book of classics that was just like already dialed. Like none of the weird stuff that happens when like bars and bar scenes and bar communities are like coming up. Like everything was like really, really good already. And it was like, that was really cool to be a part of.
Can I ask quick, just because Sean has been such a champion of Victoria while keeping definitely like a toe in other pools as well. Like he's happy to do, like he's doing his cognac classes and he takes part in World Class and he takes part in Portland Cocktail Week and all this stuff. Do you ever feel like being in Victoria has been a hindrance for you? Most of your career has been there. Do you feel like you're ever worried about trying to keep up with other cities, or you feel good about Victoria and where you sit in Victoria, where Victoria sits in the world at large? Is this something that you think about ever, or are you just happy to manage generally?
I used to think about it more. It's really easy to be like, well, woe is me. Like, you know, Vancouver gets all of the cool things in the budget. And then Vancouver's over there being like, man, Toronto gets all the cool things in the budget. And then Toronto's like, man, New York gets all the cool things in the budget. And New York's like, man, I wish I was in Singapore. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you can kind of go down that role. I'm very happy to live and work in Victoria, specifically because of what Sean built here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Sean, it was Simon, it was Solomon. I feel just so lucky that I was able to come up in this like community that they helped nurture. It wasn't just them. It was a community. But it was a group of bartenders who all like really loved each other. If you were a dick, you weren't part of the club. You know, you had to be nice. The bars weren't like rivals against each other. It was just like, yeah, we all love doing this stuff. We love hanging out. And Sean in particular, really pushing to like have the world notice Victoria, to have like people he knew or his friends or brands or whatever, just like, hey, let's focus on this market. We have something special here. It meant that I think the overall talent just kind of rose slowly. And I think we're just as good of a bartending city as anywhere else, not in the way of like, we're so good. It's just like the level generally has risen just so high around the world. But for me personally, as a professional, there was a point where I was going to move away and do that. And then it kind of eclipsed for a couple different reasons. And then I was like, I'd rather be at the position where I'm at now in a place I know than like kind of go down to the bottom and then work my way up in a city I don't understand, just due to like my family stuff and all of that. And not to say that people shouldn't do that. You definitely should. But yeah, it's not a hindrance. It's like great. And it's especially in the role that I'm at now, it's like I just want my business to do well. And I want people like Kate to be able to come up and learn skills and move on and be the best they can be. Like that's the goal. And we have the majority of the resources we need here to do that. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Do you feel like mentorship is something that people should sort of regulate? Like people should specify or codify what mentorship is? Or is it something that could be more casual?
I mean, mentorship is like, well, like first off, like what is it? You know, can you define it? I don't know if I can. Like,
I always joke about, I saw Chris Elford a few years ago, and I've mentioned this in different interviews that we've done for this already, but I saw Chris Elford a few years ago say, mentorship is like dating, where both of you need to know that that's what's happening.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, when I think about mentorship, and again, like, this is a Brendo thing. It's just like, you don't ever get to call yourself a mentor. As soon as you put those words on your email signature, like it's over.
It's like giving yourself a nickname.
100%.
Yeah.
But like there's people who do it really, really well. I wanted to talk about the team that does a lot of the world-class stuff here in Canada, like Caitlin Stewart and Jeffrey Savage and James Brant and Chris and those guys. I jump at every opportunity for them to come into my bars, specifically because it's like a masterclass on how to behave as a professional in a space, in any given space, which is something that you end up doing a lot when you move up in bars and bartending and restaurants professionally. And I'm like, any opportunity that someone who works with or around me can just like watch them behave, order at a restaurant. Like, I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's like part of that's mentorship, right? It's just like those guys, they go around the country just slowly raising the professionalism of Canadian bartenders just by existing, right? And so that's the sort of thing. And, you know, yeah, because like there's mentorship, but there's also like, you're sometimes someone's boss, and there's a little bit of mentorship there, but there's also sometimes there's not, because it's like there's a professional boundary too, right?
Yeah, I've definitely heard the argument that your mentor should never be your bar manager. Like, you're getting a specific thing from your bar manager. Your mentor should be the other voice, like the devil or angel on the opposite shoulder.
Totally, yeah. I like as a bar manager, if you're my employee, I have priorities that involve the business and involve you. And, you know, we want the best for you, providing that it's also the best for the business. Those two things usually work hand in hand, but sometimes they don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you need a friend or a buddy who's, like, hey, they're taking advantage of you. You should beat it, or like it's time for you to move to a bigger city, right? And yeah, like that's important. What about you? Like codifying mentorship? Like what do you see as mentorship or mentors?
I like the idea of it being a very formal, we're going to meet every Wednesday at noon and talk about how work was this week. And it can go all the way from that to I'm thinking I'm not getting anything out of my job anymore. I'm going to move up or around even. It doesn't even need to be a better or bigger place so much as just a different perspective. I feel flattered anytime someone calls me a mentor, but there's also times where I'm like, but I'm not telling you directly the things that I wish you were picking up from me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever found something like that?
Well, I do have. I've got quite a few people in my life like that, where I'll call them either just for a normal call or in a moment of crisis, being like, "Hey, what do you think I should do here?" Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not so much in a formal way, because I feel like that's kind of. I feel like sometimes that can be a bit tricky.
Sort of lose the charm, right?
Sort of lose the charm, and the ability to be frank, right? When I think more about mentorship, I think more about being like a good mentee, someone like being able to listen. Because like one thing about, if you look up to someone, you should see all of them. There's parts of people that you like and want to emulate, but there's also parts of people that you don't. And you're like, okay, I wouldn't have done that in that situation, or like, that's not for me. And so it's like, I think it's important to say like, there could be people that you like look up to and want to emulate, but not all of them. And you should recognize that, and then look inward, be like, okay, why don't I like that? Why don't I want to do that? Why are they doing that? Like, what's going on here? And if you get yourself into a position that they are, where they're like, okay, I really like my bar manager, but this guy's like terrible with guests now, and is just like not on it. What's going on here? You can kind of source out within yourself, be like, okay, he's overworked.
Yeah.
If I want to get into the position that he's in, I've got to make sure I find a way to balance those things, so I'm not a dick to my customers and my staff. And then you're constantly learning from the people above you in good and bad ways,
So Brant, we talked about these dudes that you learned not everything from, but a lot of your stuff from. If you could ask Sean Sewell a question, what would you ask him?
I mean, how he stayed married for as long as he did would be right at the top.
I don't know. Is that a question for Sean, or is that a question for his lady?
Probably both. That is like, honestly, a picture perfect marriage. It's crazy. I am envious of it. Professionally, I don't know if I have any questions for Sean, because I'm just talking to him all of the time. I'm definitely in that role of like, hey, what would you do? What would you do? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, secret to marriage.
And with Jeffrey Morgenthaler, if you were going to ask him a question, what would you ask him?
I want to ask Jeffrey. I think I'd ask him how he felt, or how he managed to stay on the bar for so long. Because he bartended full time during the entire time that we even knew about him. And know about him. I think he's doing a wee bit less of it now, but like, we're talking 20, 30 years. On top of managing, whether it be the bar manager or managing a business that he owns. So that would be my question of like, how did he find a balance to that? Did he find it easy? Did he find it hard? Yeah, that's my question. How did you stay on the bar that long?
It's funny thinking about it too. I know that several bars he's worked at, or his book, or himself, where he gets invited to go speak at different bar shows or awards at Tales of the Cocktail, where he doesn't show up, and he's just like, yeah, man, I'm busy running the bar.
Which is like, yeah, I mean, I got like two other things to say about Jeffrey, because I think it's just so funny. We talked about the arm garter thing earlier, and he was the guy who got me like, cocktails are serious, right? But he was also the person that was like, very much like, they're actually not serious. And it was like, he was really pushing for that in that direction. And also Kaylin Stewart winning world class also really solidified that for me too. I kind of just assumed all like world famous bartenders were like Eric Lorenz,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd have to like eventually buy like a tuxedo to do this job. But I was like, oh no, I can be me and still do this. And then like we slowly lost the arm garters and everyone took wax out of their mustaches. And it was just like, oh yeah, bars are for people and people behind bars are people.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this other thing about Jeff, which I think as more than anything else has shaped my my trajectory, particularly in management, because when you look through all the stuff that he did, it was all just like questioning the status quo was most of what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Was like, why are we using that? Why is it like that? Why are you talking like that? And I think we could do it better. I think we can do it better. I think we can do it better. I think we can do it better. And if you look at all of it, it's just like he's just like finding solutions for things. And that's been, and I only really thought about this recently. That's been the driving force of me being able to be like moderately successful in my little field, where it's just like at every given moment, it's like, why? If there's a good reason, yeah, let's keep doing it. But like maybe that could be quicker. Maybe that'd be faster. Do guests actually like that? Do we like that? Like that sort of thing. And it's that inquisitiveness that came like really, really early on to like how to look at cocktails and look at bars and restaurants that I think is cool. And that's something that I think everyone should at any juncture just look at everything you're doing, be like, why? And should it change? Do we just try something new? Or is it really that good? Is it done and dusted?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to change it ever again. So yeah, that's that.
Excellent.
Who knows about Jeffrey?
I feel like we've been talking for a bit now, and given what we're on right now, we could keep going forever. So instead, I'm going to pull the plug on this, but like any podcast ending, Brant, if someone wants to reach out to you and talk to you more about mentorship or talk to you about running Bartholomew's versus running Humboldt, how do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. It's my full name, Brant Arthur Porter. And then if you want to email me, you just use that same tag and add Gmail at the end of it. And then, yeah, you can see me a couple days a week at Humboldt. Shoot me a message before you pop down. I'd love to see you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Maybe this phone book. I think I'm still in the phone book.
Really?
I'm on Bartender Atlas.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, Brant, again, for taking the time to hang out and talk with me about mentorship and who influenced you and playing guitar versus playing behind a bar and getting into soccer way late in life.
Way late in life. Yeah. Big sports guy now.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brant.
Thank you, Josh. See you later.
I love Brant's openness about how his career has actually gone. There's no polish on any of those stories. They're just the stories. If you're trying to find Brant online, you can go to his Instagram, but mostly I hope that you go visit him at Humboldt in Victoria. Naming and designing your bar around the people that explored and populated North America can be sticky, but when you're dealing with someone that cares the way that Brant does, you know that you're in good hands. You heard who Brant mentioned there, and I promise I'll be doing some reaching out, but I want to make sure that we get to all the first link interviews before we move on to phase 3. Next week, we'll hear from one of the most inspirational younger bartenders I've had the pleasure of getting to know in the last few years, Calliope Draper. As usual, if you like what you're hearing, like, subscribe, tell your friends, make your barbacks listen while they juice lemons for you. Also, please keep up on all things Bartender Atlas by following us on Instagram, and if you are one of us, sign up and get yourself listed on the site. It's a great way to let the internet know where you're working and what kind of stuff you're into. All that info is at bartenderatlas.com. Branching Out is built by me, Josh Lindley from Bartender Atlas, and Action Pact Studios in Toronto. Theme music was cut together by Aaron Verdonk, and the reason my voice sounds as good as it does is because of engineer Jesse Colburn. Also, both those guys were present that night at Sugar in Victoria more than 20 years ago. Neither of them remember it either. I wonder if Sugar still even exists. Talk soon.